the week before, the last week,
The previous.
the previous of the last week. I
Uh-huh.
mean, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
Because in the first week, I was in Congress, a
Wow.
meeting in Puebla about reptiles. And this week I was in work field. Well, I was working in the field because I have to I had to um, get lizards for my thesis.
Oh my, that sounds really interesting. What's your major? Are you a biologist?
Yes, I am biologist.
Wow, hey, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so Maria del
Welcome.
Rosario, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thanks. What about you?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Tell me, Rosario, how was your week?
My my week was so busy, and I have a lot of work, but in general, it was fine.
That's great. Rosario, could you remind us what's your major?
I'm a teacher. I have a master in education. I work in elementary school and high school.
Oh my, so you are so busy, really
Yeah.
busy.
I live in the state of Mexico in near to Texcoco for in Chimalhuacan.
Wow, that's it. So, well, you know what? I am in the state of Mexico also, but I am in Ecatepec, so we are relatively near.
Ah, yes, yes, that's
Okay,
it's in
thank
the
you.
same area.
Yes, that's it, in the same state. All right, thank you very much. Okay, Juan, welcome. How are you? Juan,
Hi,
hello.
teacher. Good night.
Good evening.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can listen to you.
Yes.
Excellent. Tell me, Juan, how was your week?
Yes. Well, we need to take some time for me, and I need to take some maybe meditation lessons.
That's it. Juan, could you remind us your major? What's your major?
What is major?
The area where you study or work.
Oh, I studied lawyer and I am in a formation for and actually I studied education and I am a rural teacher for 3 grades.
Wow, beautiful. Hey, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And tell me, are you at work now?
I work in I work in INEA and I am work in the public organism pedagogic assessoring.
Wow. Hey, that's wonderful. Congratulations to you. It sounds really interesting. Okay, guess what? Today we are going to talk about natural disasters. That is the topic for today. And so here we have, first we are going to describe natural disasters, and we are going to talk about preparedness, how to be prepared for facing, for undergoing those natural disasters. So look at this, here in the screen, we have some words that describe natural disasters. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
We have these ones that says floods, disease, tornadoes, thunderstorms, solar flares, death, disaster, well, natural disasters, earthquakes, landslides, volcanoes, blizzards, drought, tsunamis. Okay, so Hatsiri, could you explain to us some of the, well, a natural disaster, any that you know?
In this list,
Yes, please.
drought.
Excellent. What is it?
Drought, it is when there is no, well, there is a long temporada season. There is
Season.
a long season without water, without rain, and the soil is no wet.
And it's not producing any vegetables, any plants? Okay, thank you very much, Hatsiri. All right, Maria del Rosario, could you explain us any natural phenomenon, natural disaster that you can see in the screen?
Okay, earthquakes.
Excellent.
Earthquakes is when the ground is shaking.
When the ground shakes and
It's shaking.
Is it dangerous?
Oh yeah, well, it depends on the intensity. For example, in Mexico City, scientists say that all the time is a little earthquakes happen. But according to the some scale, the Richter scale, is in the high scale. For example, after, well, it depends the kind of earthquake, because it's according to the shaking is move, because say that it's more dangerous if the earthquake is down to up, down.
Oh my, yes, that's it. All right, thank you very much, Rosario. Juan, talk to us about any natural disaster. Could you explain us about any of this? Juan, hello. Maybe Juan is having problems with his microphone. Emmanuel, welcome. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Hi,
I
Maggie.
can
Hey,
explain
everybody.
about the search. I live in I live in Coahuila, and the weather is very
Juan, are you there? Okay. Juan, we can't listen to you pretty well. I think that it is your internet signal. Oh, don't go, Juan. All right. Yes, it is the internet signal he has. Emmanuel, I'm so sorry. We interrupted you. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Excellent. Emmanuel, how was your week?
Excellent. A good week in general terms.
Hey, that was great. Could you remind us what's your major? What's the area where you work or study?
I work developing software in a company named Bruxelles.
That's it. So you are a professional on informatics.
Well, I hope so.
Yes, you are. All right. So you know what? We are talking about natural disasters. So is there any natural disaster on the screen that you would like to explain us?
Okay. I think the worst I see here is the volcano. I remember recently a volcano explosion. I think in Guatemala, and these days is more wide wide notorious in the world because
Mm-hmm.
the internet and other media send the image so so frightening
Uh-huh.
about the volcano's explosion.
Yes, that's it. Is it very destructive?
Very very destructive.
Oh my. And tell me, where are you from, Emmanuel?
Mexico City,
Excellent. Yes. Tell me, is there any volcano relatively near to Mexico City?
just Popocatépetl is very near. I live in the north side of the Mexico City, properly in the Mexican state,
Uh-huh. Do you live in Tlalnepantla or in Ecatepec?
Tanepantla.
Jesus Christ. So yes, it is relatively near. So
Yeah.
tell me, is there any information about the danger of the volcano? Any
Uh,
information? Yes,
I,
I'm sorry.
I can hear completely.
Oh, yes. Do you know if there's any information about the danger of the volcano for the population?
Uh, I
Yes, there.
I see many informations about uh, the points of security and how to do if a volcano have more activity.
Yes, that's it. All right. Thank you very much. Now, look at this. Do me a favor. Write in the chat if there is any word in the screen that you don't know, something that is non-familiar to you.
Okay.
Okay, so Maria del Rosario wrote about solar flares. Do anybody of you know what is a solar flare? No, anybody? Well,
No.
okay, a solar flare is something like hyperactivity in the sun surface. So sometimes the rays that the sun emits are really, really high, um, really strong, we could say, and they can be really destructive because the temperature in the earth could be really high. Okay, so what about drought? Do anybody of you know what is a drought?
Drought is when it's in raining.
Yes.
Yeah, when there's no rain for some times, for some time, I mean. Yeah, and the earth, the soil can be really dry, and it is non-productive in that time. All right. Oh yes, Juan, the instructions were that please, could you write in the chat the words that are non-familiar to you? For example, maybe you don't know what is a solar flare, or maybe what is a landslide. Okay, blizzards. Here, Emmanuel wrote blizzards. Blizzards are snowstorms. They are storms with lots of winds, very wind activity, a very high wind activity, and snow. It is a blizzard. And what about disease? Okay, Juan. Disease is sickness, the disaster that people can suffer. For example, disease, whenever there is a drought, the principal disease that people has is malnutrition, or whenever the weather is really, really hot, the most common disease is stomach aches, diarrheas, and some infections. And what happens, kids, when the weather is really cold? For example, winter time. What is the most common disease?
Flu.
Flu, excellent. It's the flu, cough, fever. People tend to have a bad cold. Okay, Hatsiri, but disease is not necessarily a natural disaster, or not? No, Hatsiri, disease is not a natural disaster. Disease is a consequence when natural disasters happens. Another consequence that natural disasters have is death.
Mhm.
Have death or hazard. What does hazard mean?
It's a danger.
Very dangerous.
Yes, that's it. It's a very dangerous situation.
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. A question, do anybody of you know what is landslide?
When in a mountain or in a cerro,
In a
the
hill?
Hills.
the rocks or the ground, el sustrato, la tierra,
Yeah,
goes down.
yeah, the land. All right, it goes down. For example, something like this. Is it similar to?
Again, please.
Yeah, is it something like this? Here at the bottom right, here we have a landslide.
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so look at this. What is this at the top right?
An hurricane.
It's a hurricane.
Hurricane. Yes.
And what about this? What is it?
Volcano. In explosion, eruption, a volcano.
Excellent. Yes, it's a volcano eruption. What about this one? What is it?
Drought.
Yes, pretty good. Okay, so please, could you tell me if you have been present, if you have, well, not suffer, but if you have seen any natural disaster? What about
Yes,
that city?
I was in Isabel Island. It is an island on Nayarit,
In,
and we were working there in, with birds, lizards, and another another animals,
yeah,
and we
others.
were we were there when a hurricane passed.
My
So
goodness.
it was very mm, awful because the rain was horizontal. Uh,
Jesus Christ.
the las olas were very high and violent. So
My,
we were very afraid, and my family, my mother was very afraid because we have we didn't have communication by phone or another in any other way.
my goodness. And
Yes,
how long was it?
2 days.
Jesus Christ. So I think
Yes,
that it has been really scary for you. How did you
yes.
feel?
We were very worried, but in the island there is a little construction where the biologists or another
Or
people
some
stay.
some other people?
Oh,
Some other.
some other people stay when they go to work at the island. So we were uh, all the time there.
Something
And
like a refugee.
yes, so meanwhile we were there, we will be in safe,
We all were unsafe.
were unsafe. So was awful and worried, but we could uh, persist.
My goodness. Yes, it was
Yes,
scary. Hatsiri, thank you very much for sharing.
welcome.
Okay, so Hatsiri, who's your victim?
Uh, mm, 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 mm. Juan,
Thank you. Juan, we are talking about natural disasters that you have experienced. So, could you talk to us about any natural disaster that you saw or that you were there? Juan, I can see that your internet signal is not very good, so you are coming and going. Okay. Hatsiri, any other person?
okay. Emmanuel,
Okay, thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. In 2006, uh, I think it was in 2006, we go to we went to Puebla with my family, and in the morning when I opened the curtains of the hotel room where we stay, uh, I see the Popocatépetl uh, making an eruption, uh,
Jesus.
just ashes, but was very affrighting and
Yeah, so
in
frightening.
very affrighting, and in uh, very quick, all the scene becomes just ashes, uh, and I didn't know I have to do. We think staying in the hotel or going to Veracruz. That was the final destiny.
Your
But
final destination.
fortunately, it's not happened. Do something more.
Jesus Christ, it was so frightening, so scaring.
Yeah,
Oh my. Well, thank
unusual.
God you are here. Yeah, I think that it is really frightening to present, to be present in any other natural
Yeah.
disaster. Okay, Juan, could you help us writing in the chat any that you had or maybe that you know about natural disasters? Okay, so guess what? Meanwhile, Juan writes in the chat, we are going to continue with the
Okay.
presentation. I'm sorry. Give me just a moment. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so look at this. Here we have some natural disasters. Could you mention this?
Which one?
This one here at
Uh,
the top left.
it is fire burning
Excellent. Yes, it is a
in a
fire.
forest
Have you known about any important fire that had recently occurred?
in California.
Yes, that's it. It was so impressive.
Yes.
Emmanuel, have you known about any other fire?
I think in Mexico recently we have a fire, some like
Juan.
Yes, that's it.
In
Okay.
Amazonas also too.
Amazons, yes, it was
Yes.
something really dispiriting because there were kilometers and kilometers of forest that were burned by fire.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much. So what is it? What's at the top right?
A tsunami
Excellent. Yes, it's a tsunami. Have you known about any tsunami?
in Japan, the last big one. In Indonesia also, I think.
Yes, that's it. Maria del Rosario, what do you think about this, the situation of the tsunamis? Have you known about any?
No, I can live this experience, but I watch on TV. I remember the Indonesians some decades ago, almost. Uh, and I know that in those days, I know that tsunami is a Japanese war, and
Mhm.
it's a kind of it's a consequences on an earthquake
Mhm.
because it's a high waves into the sea and they cover the earth. And Japan, well, the more popular, well, the most country which suffers this kind of disaster is Japan, but is the in Asia, no? Especially in Asia
Yeah,
region.
that's it.
Mhm.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Juan wrote, of course, in Coahuila, where I was living, the weather was very hot. That's occasioned several changes in humoral persons. Some animals dead, and the water is insufficient for population. Oh, Juan, that's really interesting. Yes, so population can suffer, really suffer for these kind of disasters. Thank you very much for sharing. Yes, just the change. It's population instead of population. All right, so please do me a favor. Oh, look at this. At the bottom left, Can you see? What is it? Here,
An hurricane?
it could be a hurricane or
tornadoes.
tornado, yes, or
An earthquake.
or an earthquake. Who knows what happened there? But yes, it was terrible. Could have been an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane. Okay, thank you very much. Look at this. Here we have another natural disaster. What is it?
A landslide, but in the way.
Yeah, it may be. Yeah, it may have been an landslide or I don't know. Maybe it was an earthquake.
An earthquake, yes.
Yeah, so possible. Okay, thank you very much. So look at this. Here we have a very important phrase, and it says, we cannot stop natural disasters, but we can arm ourselves with knowledge. So many lives wouldn't have to be lost if there was enough disaster preparedness. And this was said by Petra Nemkova. So what do you think about this phrase? Could you write it on the chat, please? Let's check a little of grammar and spelling. Hatsiri said, I am agree. Well, it's okay, but you know what? The correct expression is I agree.
Okay.
Into Spanish, we say estoy de acuerdo, but into English, they say I agree, concuerdo. Actually, it calls resilience. Excellent. Thank you very much. You know what? We are going to talk about resilience.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Juan wrote, I consider about the phrase that it is necessary to prevent the natural phenomenons. If we knew in past, if we knew about what to do in that case, such as preparing documents in bags and be positive in that moment. All right, thank you, Juan. Very good. Hatsiri, the people who is prepared and trained will resist better any natural disaster. Excellent, Hatsiri. Thank you. Maria del Rosario. In the last decades, governments know that prevention is so important to to face the natural disasters in plural, because they could happen. We are not going to use the form of the third person for this verb because we are talking about they. They is not a third person. So because they could happen in any time. Okay, pretty good. Thank you. You know what? I agree. I totally agree with you because the government should pay attention to the security of population. But I think also that we people should have some actions that help us to be secure, to be safe. Guess what? Okay, so Hatsiri, for example, in simulacrums. Okay, Hatsiri, excellent. Emmanuel, I think this quote is true. We can compare the difference between the earthquake of Mexico in 1986 in contrast of the 2017 earthquake, with people better prepared and proper protocols to acting better. Yes,
Mhm.
yes, you're right. Okay, let's see the next. Look at this. Here it's kind of like a plan for natural disasters preparedness. The objective that kind of these plans have is the mitigation of pain. Here we have, this is the objective, the main objective. So the mitigation of the pain can get to a community resilience. What do you think it is? What's your idea about community resilience? Mm,
Is when
yes.
is when a community is trained uh, and they identify very well their carencies and their um, capacities of prevent and acting in the better way uh, in in a natural disaster.
Excellent. Yes, it is when the population can be not in calm, of course, but they can be having actions about any situation, any emergency situation. Okay, thank you. Any others opinion? Anybody else who would like to talk about this?
I consider that it is to be better before an a bad situation.
Excellent, Juan. Yes, thank you very much.
I agree with Juan.
Please talk to us about it, Emmanuel.
Well, I'm agree because restaurant is to become better from a bad situation. It's take care about something you know how to acting in the moment that it's happening.
The required moment. Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, here they say that for having this community resilience is basic to have public information and warning. So, kids, do you consider that here in our country, is anybody here who is not from Mexico? Any people who live in another country? No, anybody?
No,
All right. So what about Mexico? What happens in Mexico? Do we have enough public information and warning?
For example, in Mexico City, we are really capacitated.
Trained.
Well, yes, we are really trained about earthquakes in the simulacrums, but I think this could be no, this must be present in another states where the earthquakes are more frequent. So, like Guerrero, Oaxaca, and Puebla.
Yes, that's it. You're right. In some other states, you know what? We can't say another because another is just one. So whenever you talk about
Some others.
in some other states,
Okay, okay, some others. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, you're right. And even though, okay, in Mexico we have that risk, it is a hazardous place because of the earthquakes, but you're right. In Guerrero and in Oaxaca, the hazard that people face is also very high. Okay,
Yes, and they don't have alarms.
my
That
good.
alarms which well, alarms that sounds a minute before or seconds before the earthquake.
Yeah, and so it would be really important, and even that they know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much, Hatsiri. Anybody else who talk about this public information and warning?
I I consider that in national weather system.
Aha, yes, that's it. Have you heard any advertisement or public information, Juan?
I don't understand.
Have you heard any advertisement or some information in the media about natural disasters?
In Tijuana, we don't have a natural disaster that only uh, we have simulacros for
Hello?
Maybe he's having problems with his microphone. All right. Well, he was talking about Tijuana, that they don't have any information, just the simulacrums. And so, what about you, Emmanuel?
I I have the opportunity to compare 1986 with 2017, and Mexico is improving his politics politic about disasters. I think we are better prepared, but it's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to improve all the disaster management.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Yes, you're right. You know what? I also consider that we have had advantages. We have had any some improvements even in the people attitude. I remember that, well, I was in the earthquake in 1986, but guess what? And I remember that in that earthquake, there were very sad and ashaming news because many countries offered help, but uh, I don't remember what was the country. I guess it was Germany, who sent trained dogs and equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, the equipment and the dogs were stolen. And so it talks about a lack of culture that people had in that moment. Of course,
Yes, I remember that.
Very sad.
yeah, it was embarrassing, sad, shaming, annoying, well, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yes,
It was a real pity that they were trying to help us and they're calling. How is it possible?
Mm-hmm.
But well, of course, in the last disaster in 2017, it happened not in a similar situation, but yes, of course, there were some places where people was getting advantage of the properties of people who were in disaster. So, but I think that it was a minor situation. Anyway, I think that we are changing our minds. We are growing up as a nation. What do you think about that? Do you consider that the population is having another culture? Are we improving?
Yes, a little, but I feel really proud of Mexican people in the last earthquake, and because we were more solidarios.
There was solidarity.
Yes, there were more solidarity, and there were people helping, and was was nice.
Yes, much. You know what? I remember that, well, my daughter was in the university in that time, and she told to us that in UNAM and in Polytechnico, there were many architecture, engineering students who were asked to go back to classes because they were losing a lot of classes. They were skipping classes because they were helping. And so the students refused to go back to classes, and they explained that they were being prepared for helping people, for being useful to society, and that of course they didn't want to lose classes, but they knew that it was the moment when they were necessary, so they didn't want to go back to classes because they wanted to continue helping. And so it was really touching. They say, this is the moment where my country needs me. I don't have anything to do in the classroom if I am not useful for my people. So I don't know, did you know anything about that? Hello, are you there?
Yes, it sounds so nosy.
Ah, couldn't you listen to me?
Yes, we listen, but with some noise.
Oh my, I'm sorry. Well,
Don't worry.
yes, I was talking about the students
Uh,
in Polytechnico and in UNAM and UAM, that they say that they didn't want to go back to classes because
yes,
they wanted to keep on helping because it was the necessary moment.
I think in Mexico is changing slowly, but it's changing the mind and the uh, vision about the disasters and the vulnerability,
Aha, vulnerability,
and
yes.
and we have citizens more sensitive to disaster. In 1986, I think we are not prepared, and there's
Yeah,
there there's not that culture about disasters in that moment.
yeah, there was not a culture. Now we can say that there is.
It's
We are
in working process.
in progress.
Excellent. Hey, that's so rewarding. That's so nice. And I think that we should be proud of our advantage of our growing up because it talks about culture. It talks about that we have some other points of view, another vision.
Yes, and like you say before, I remember the students with their helmets in the subway, and was nice.
Yeah, too much. Well, you know what? I think that there are lots of lots more things to say about this because it is so interesting. Unfortunately, time is over, but I thank you so much for your participation. So brilliant as always. And so, if you don't have any question, no, any commentary? Well, then thank you very much for your attendance and meet you next class.
See you.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for the
Okay,
patience.
Teacher.
thanks to you. Thanks for your
Place to see
attendance.
you.
Meet you next class. Have a very successful week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
How are you?
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.